Tree of Savior is perhaps proof that even if you have stunningly beautiful graphics helping to create a classically gorgeous world, solid and responsive movement with impactful, satisfying action combat gameplay, and a fantastic soundtrack which enhances both the exploration and the action elements, it can all be for nothing if you cram your game with way too many upgrade and enhancement systems, completely neglect your early game pacing, overwhelm the player with an intrusive UI, and deliver your important gameplay mechanics entirely through massive text dumps. Tree of Savior is perhaps the most disappointing game I've played on this series so far, because the foundation for a fantastic, successful game is there, and the art style is absolutely without parallel, but it's held back by its abysmal player experience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Hayes, and this is Worst MMO Ever, a series where I play the worst MMO games I can find so you don't have to. Drop a like on the video or sub to the channel for more MMO stuff. Ring the bell for all the future notifications. As usual, a big thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. More on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Today we are playing Tree of Savior. It's on Steam and it's free, so let's give it a go. First off, it's 28 gigabytes. That's massive. That's bigger than Dark Souls 3. That's bigger than Warframe. Tree of Savior needs more hard drive space than Warframe. Just let that sink in for a moment. That is mental to me. In fact, it's bigger than Halo Infinite's free multiplayer mode, which you can download and play on Steam right now. Not sponsored, this is just something everyone should consider downloading. I don't even like Halo, I'm just impressed that this much game is free. So we begin, and the first thing you'll notice is the art. It's lovely, and this is one thing I cannot praise the game for enough. The art team on Tree of Savior have absolutely knocked it out the park. Seriously, 10 out of 10. From backgrounds to character design to the drawn conversation avatars, Tree of Savior is a stunningly good-looking game. It is dripping with classic RPG style. Unfortunately, it does seem to have a beauty is only skin deep kind of thing going on once you really get into it. We start off in this lodge making a character, and I'm getting very Super Nintendo JRPG vibe. The viewpoint is diagonal isometric with some 3D depth. The items and objects and enemies do exist within 3D space, and you can see the depth in them as you sway gently around. And here's the first issue. You need to hover over a class to select them. But watch this. If you zoom in all the way, the class choice hitboxes are perfectly mapped to the little avatars you can see in the game. But if you zoom out, the avatar's position on the screen changes because they're now further away, but the hitboxes for class selection don't. The hitboxes for clicking on seem to be mapped to the actual overlay, not the in-game representation of where they are. I know this is a really pedantic nitpick, but that's what I do. I be pedantic. Kind of like how sometimes you go to melee attack someone in Halo and it doesn't do the little jump forward thing it's meant to do, meaning you don't cover the distance you were expecting to cover and then they kill you. So I go with a swordsman because I'm basic, and the intro begins. It's rendered in-game and it's lovely. I'm being taken back to those old classic RPGs. I'm feeling Breath of Fire, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Lufia, Rise of the Sinstrels, Soul Blazer. Tree of Savior has got ambience and sprite design spot on for what it was going for. And then it starts singing, and it's actually a pretty good song.
It's time to feel this sensation as the sunshine brighten day by day, bringing glory into all your way. Awaken, be strengthened, whatever more you've had.
So now we're in our own personal lodge, and I choose the server I want to log into. Now I'm on the European server, and there are two possible gaming channels, the first with 0 players out of 100 and the other with 4. 4 people in all of Europe are playing this game. Yeah, that's pretty dead. Game begins and it's a bird's eye isometric adventure game. Arrow keys move, X is jump and Z is attack. Your hotkeys are bound to Q, W, E, R and the numbered keys. I go to look at remapping these keys and there are a lot of menus in this game. And even though I'm playing on high resolution, the text is kinda pixelated. And then club music starts playing. I don't know why. I was expecting soft, gentle intro village music like every JRPG ever. Now I feel like I should be ordering 2 Jaeger bombs and wondering if I've got enough for a taxi home. We chat to this guard, Titus. He asks if we had a vision of the goddess asking us to go to Clepeda. We did, so he sends us on our way. M opens the map. The local map is divided into squares with fog of war covering the places you haven't been yet. It displays all the important NPCs, shops or interactable objects like god statues, and this is fine. It's basically everything you need. The slight transparent effect is a bit nauseating if left open for long because of the highly detailed background moving around it, but it's definitely serviceable. It shows you where things are, and it's always good to know where the important things are. Kind of like how in Halo Infinite's Oddball you can always see who's carrying the ball so you know who to run at or who to protect. Have a chat to this guard and he's been attacked by some onions, so I channel the hero within me and go and kill them. Then I get given more quests to go and kill more aggressive vegetables. The combat is decent, it's flashy enough, satisfying sounds and effects, good contact feeling, but it's limited. You can just hold basic attack and be fine. And later when I do get abilities, it's just do the best ability forever, repeatedly. Combat feels like it could be great, but they've not done much with it in the early game. Also, once you've finished a quest, you can just press backspace and be instantly teleported back to the NPC you need to hand it into, because exploring the world is for losers. The world in this game exists to facilitate the placement of enemies, nothing more. There's no emergent quests or hidden side stories, it's just go and kill X amount of enemies who happen to live here. It's a beautiful looking world, but mechanically, it's just a home for some enemies. All your important windows, player stats, inventory, skills and attributes are all opened via the F keys, F1 through 7, and as expected, the inventory is filled with some free items given to me just for playing, so I use them and get a load of free experience and upgrade points and spend them all on a skill which lets me stab better. We now face an elite enemy and we're told, jump over its attacks, but we don't need to because the stab is so overpowered it kills pretty much everything in 1 or 2 hits, and here is my first issue. Giving the player boost items when they aren't fully trained up in a game yet is a dumb idea. We don't know what to boost, and if the player does end up with an overpowered attack, you've just destroyed all balance your game might have once had. Look, I know this situation, I've been here before many times. You made your game, you balanced it. You measured the player's attack and the enemy's defense, and everything worked on day 1. And then your player base started to fall away. So you gave every new player some boost items so they could catch up with their friends, but in doing so you've completely wrecked your early game balance. What we are seeing here is the husk of a game, now flooded with boosting items and free experience cards given so the players feel some sort of progress, but ironically, this makes the player so powerful the actual gameplay now feels pointless. And now I see 2 of my most hated design choices all happen at the same time. The wall of drops are all collected at once, taking up the entire screen, because this is meant to appeal to our ooh shiny thing good monkey brain and not actually be substantial. And then a complex in-game system explained entirely via massive text dump, not through integrated gameplay woven into the early game experience. We will see this multiple times in my 8-hour play session. So by now, I'm a few hours in, and I think the most accurate word to describe this game is overwhelming. There's a lot going on, lots of classes and systems and quests and levels and items and stats and tutorials, and the UI is flashing and the character nameplates are fighting for space, and there's a lot of drops which all do various things, and I'm not sure if they're good or not, but my inventory is filling up quickly. Also, I click on the premium shop and the currency they use is called TP, and the first thing it says is no refunds once you have bought TP, check Steam refund policy. Wow. Maybe not the greatest advert for customer satisfaction if you literally open with no, you can't have your money back. Oh, I wasn't kidding about the class advancement screen being overwhelming. There are subclasses available to just the Swordman main class. In fact, I checked, there are 74 different classes available in total, all with unique attacks and passive and armor sets. And there is no way in hell you have managed to balance 74 classes to all be equal. I've got some more quests and I hand them in, and here's a nice touch. The map shows where a quest takes place. In fact, the world map even has level ranges listed to each zone, which is kind of nice because it gives you a sense of progression as you move through the world. And then, after killing some onions and being overwhelmed with class selection, I take some time out from my day to help troubleshoot some random dude's issues in-game. I mean, I've only been playing for a few hours, but when someone else can't attack, I can probably help out, even though my advice boils down to turn it off and on again. I mean, look, I'm basically helping 20% of the player base here. Now we get given a system we'll never use. Pressing insert makes you sit down and rest, and while resting you recover stamina. And if you have firewood, you can build a bonfire and recover faster, but I don't have any, and the game doesn't tell me how to get it. Okay, cool, a stamina recover system. Hopefully that will be useful. But no, because then we're given about 100 consumable pills which restore our stamina. See what I mean about pacing being bad? Here's a system to recover your stamina. Here's a load of items which instantly make the system you've just heard about immediately redundant. But then I get a new sword and the in-game model actually changes to show the new blade. The art team on Tree of Savior need an award because this looks so good. Get told about goddess statues, they are scattered around the world and praying to them gives us some boons, so we do that and we get given a status point. Not a blessing or something more fantastical or immersive or fluff-based like the goddess smiles on you and grants you whatever. I just get one status point. Thanks, goddess. And then there's a mini-boss, which isn't really a challenge because the game has given me so much boosting stuff, nothing is a challenge, and I've used all the free XP cards and the game showers me with rewards, and now I'm level 12. I don't feel any different to level 1. I wasn't actually aware when levels 2 through 11 happened. Every level is so meaningless. It's not a happy moment of, ooh, I'm stronger. It's just a very bored acknowledgement of, oh, number bigger, keep playing. Levels used to mean something substantial. In this game, they don't. Get to the next town over and I'm greeted with several full-screen pop-up ads for daily login bonuses and weekly login bonuses and current events and news and more login stuff. And look, I'm a brand new player. I don't know what any of this does. This is way too much stuff to throw at me. Pace your game better. After a few minutes of running around this town, I've worked it out. I've figured out what's wrong. I know how to explain this. Tree of Savior feels like you're starting a complex JRPG already 50 hours in. Like your mate has let you play on their saved game from halfway through a complex game and you're missing all of the content and all of the training. Imagine starting a complex RPG already close to the end. You've got all these systems and upgrades and items and advantages and you don't know what they do because you've never had the gameplay moment of using them. Imagine trying to play any of the Final Fantasies but you miss the first 10 hours of context and training and explanation. That's what this is. It's throwing you in at the deep end and expecting you to just figure it out by spending several hours reading massive text dumps, analysing all the upgrade screens. Nothing in this game is particularly bad and that's what's irritating me. None of these systems are broken. They are just all thrust on you at once and it's overwhelming. But we're in the main town now, so let's have a look at the cash shop, because you know it's there. So opening the cash shop shows this button, Beauty, so I click it and get instantly teleported in-game to the beauty shop in town, because obviously you can't buy beauty items from the shop without physically being stood in front of the shop in the game. I hate this. I hate any in-game system which forcefully relocates my in-game avatar without telling me it's doing that, because then I feel I've lost direct control of my avatar. And for me, having control of my avatar, of where I am and what I'm doing in a game is pretty important in retaining my agency within the adventure. Once you start taking your agency within the adventure, I stop caring. This aside, let's explore the shop. Everything is priced in TP, and I can't actually find anywhere to buy TP. Clicking the TP button just brings up the no refunds warning. I think this is meant to be a list of packs of currency to buy, but it just doesn't show any packs. So I head over to Steam, and I find the prices listed. £6.50 for 100 TP, so 65 quid for 1,000. Remember that. There is a lot in this shop. Packs and costumes and gestures and refining items and breakdown items. There's a lot here, and I don't know what's useful or what will be useful. So I'm just looking at the prices. There's a luchador pack. I know that's an advancement class, so clearly this is a paid for class and class weapon and armor pack. It's 549 TP, meaning you'll spend just shy of £40 or $50 to buy this class. But then look, you can buy individual gestures for 198 TP. That's £13. Almost $15 for a single in-game gesture, which you can use to communicate with the roughly 1,000 people who still play this game. I mean, providing you're not on the European server, then you can communicate with 4 people. Look, this is pay to win. Pay to advance quicker, pay to get a better class, pay to progress, pay to break down items. It's pay to talk. It's a game which sells megaphones. You use one megaphone every time you send a global chat message, so you can spam the server with whatever you like, provided you're willing to pay for the privilege. In Tree of Savior, communication costs money. Everything costs money. I can't specifically point to one individual item and say that is broken because, but I know this is a pay-to-win system. You know this is a pay-to-win system. It'd be a fool not to be a pay-to-win system with the tiny player base it has. As soon as I see a megaphone, a communication tool cost money, I know you are pay-to-win. While in Halo, communication is simple. You just repeatedly crouch over a dead opponent's face. Such a throwback to a simpler time. I get told to go to the woods and find some miners jumping over the buildings in town is a nice touch. At least they've used the vertical design space to do something. You can jump over enemy attacks and over scenery. It shows they've thought about using an actual in-game application for the jump mechanic. We get given some warp scrolls from the shop for free. These return us to town quickly, and then we can run out and figure out we can spend real money on more warp scrolls because of course we can. Fight through the woods and honesty just feels sad. It's like the game has a great art team, a great system design team, but the whole process of putting these designs to the player has failed. They've got a good foundation for a game, but they've dropped the ball on presentation and introduction to the mechanics within the game. And people often ask me to explain what I mean by in-game tutorial or how system explanation can be woven into gameplay. So here's an example, just consider this. Tree of Savior has an item upgrade system and elemental damage. You can make things more powerful or infuse them with properties or upgrade them with smithing reagents, but it tells you this by saying, oh hey, there's an item upgrade system, and then gives you a huge text dump explaining it. That's not immersive. Imagine if instead you and an NPC that you were friends with fought a boss together, and after a few seconds you realise you're not doing any damage. But then the NPC says to you, hey, he's resistant to your attacks, you need to infuse your weapon with holy damage. Here is a holy stone that I've got, and they give it to you. And the game then opens up your item menu and says, hey, if you go to the upgrade system, add the holy stone, now return to the fight, you do damage. You've now been exposed to the system and you get to see immediate feedback about how useful it could be. You see the relation between the upgrade and the effect in an actual fight. You could even then have a plot point about the NPC having to go and pay penance for losing his holy item to his church. There you go, I've written an immersive story for you, you're welcome. It's the difference between reading a book on how to do something and actually going to do it. You learn better by doing because you feel connected to the actions. I've gained enough swordsman experience to advance to the Dragoon class, and doing this gives me some new armour, so I put it on, and I get a Steam achievement, equip any item in the body costume slot. So basically anyone can get this after they've been playing for about 3 hours, because you get given a costume item for just advancing a class for free. How many players do you think have this Steam achievement? 4.4%. Less than 5% of players made it to the Choose an Advancement class 3 hours in. Whenever anyone asks me why their game is dying, this is what I say. It doesn't matter how good your game gets, it matters how good your game starts and remains. You have lost 95.6% of players within the first 3 hours. I run out of stamina, try to give the game a chance and use the bonfire rest mechanic. It is pointless because it's just not as useful as spam eating the stamina pills the game gave me earlier. And then there's a mini boss and it just dies. I have no connection to this boss. There's been no setup, so therefore there's no payoff. I don't know who this is, I don't care. And Tree of Savior really starts to show its true colours here. It's skin deep. There's no personal connection to the events, the enemies, the NPCs. You are just random hero. For a game styled so heavily after the classic RPGs of the SNES era, they forgot to add what made most of those games special. The hero's journey, the connection to the world, the reason to want to succeed. We reach the trapped miners and free them, and I continue to feel nothing, and then we get given another system, item upgrading via anvils. There are 4 types of anvils, and each type upgrades to a higher level and needs items, but you can buy them in the cash shop because of course you can. And once again, the anvil tutorial is given via giant text dump with blurry text and low resolution pictures. Not doing, just reading. Honestly, Tree of Savior feels like a design document yet to be gamified. All the ingredients are there. All the systems are set up and they're ready, and they do actually work. There's just no gameplay to tie them to a relatable player-driven moment. It feels like the art team made an incredible looking game, and the design team created an amazing, complex, deep game with lots of systems, but the gameplay team, where the player gets to actually experience these systems in a natural way, dropped the ball. The moment a player gets to see how this beautiful world and deep mechanics work as one, how they enhance and relate, that's just not there. You've got some seriously high quality ingredients here, you've just not cooked them very well. And it angers me, because this could all be fixed by pacing your game and spacing out when the player is shown something new, and having an example of how that system matters right now. Tree of Savior's pacing is the equivalent of having a month's worth of food presented to you all at once and being told, eat it all right now. Here's another really pedantic nitpick, but this is the kind of stuff that you should be picking up in beta testing or when you actually look at the cinematography of your game. To enter the mine, we move to the top left of the screen, moving up and to the left, and then we appear in the mine facing down and to the right. This is breaking the 180 rule in filmmaking. This is just bad cinematography. Respecting screen direction is a basic media technique. If we entered the mine moving up and to the left, we should start the mine section also moving up and to the left. The mine entrance should be in the bottom right of the map. Otherwise, the player feels that they have switched direction and done a 180 and you've unnaturally moved the viewpoint. Now it feels like you should be heading out of the mine. Watch and you'll see what I mean. Moving up and to the left, in the mine, start moving down and to the right. It feels wrong. If your mine entrance is diagonal top left, you should start moving in the same way. Pedantic, but noticeable. Inside the mine is, well, this is the game's first dungeon. It even has the traditional massive text dump to explain what a dungeon is and how it works. So we fight through and now there's rave music. And I think it's here I realise that this is what the game actually is. Tree of Saviour is Diablo if it got really into anime. That's basically this game. It's a dungeon crawling hack and slash looter with flashy animation, decent combat and a banging soundtrack, which is in no way diegetic. It's not meant to sound like a mine, because it doesn't actually matter that this is a mine. This is just a model of a world. Aesthetics don't actually matter here at all. Case in point, in this mine you fight a few mini-bosses guarding some purifiers that you need to activate. The mini-bosses aren't related to the mine in any way. The first is a Grim Reaper looking death wizard, the second is a giant mutated bear, and the third is a flying stone whale. There is no reason this had to be a mine. The enemies, the mechanics, the music, nothing says mine. This is just a gameplay section, enjoy it. I can kind of imagine this kind of hack and slash dungeon looter being really fun with friends, but the European server has 4 people on it. You're not going to find anyone to play with. Unlike Halo Infinite's free multiplayer, which supports bots, so I was able to enjoy a few games by myself with actually quite good AI. Eventually, after a while, because this dungeon is bloody long, you enter a zen-like stabby stage. You fall into the rhythm of the psychedelic trance beats, you enjoy the flashing colours and you just follow the map. I don't know who I am, I don't know why I'm here, all I know is I must stab. So while I stab, let's read some reviews. Barely an hour in, and the game comes to screeching halt with grinding. No sense of direction, nothing engaging, and a dead player base. Too much UI stuff. Only thing this game has going for it is the visual style, the 450 or whatever levels, music and hidden classes, else steer away. Removing silver drops from mobs and limiting silver drops to high-end content absolutely destroys the gap between new players and veterans, probably the worst change to ever happen. Outside of that, the gameplay for levels 450 to 460 is absolutely the worst experience I've ever had. Solo players are pretty much stuck doing challenge mode and instance dungeons every day, all of which rewards not even 5% of your experience at level 458. Sure, grind is expected, but goddamn. Because of this, you have to rely on experience boosters times 32 and instanced dungeon resets. Veterans would have no problem purchasing them, but what about newer players who don't even get silver anymore? This game is turning more and more into a crappy Korean cash grab. Stay away as far as possible. I stopped playing this game a long time ago, after about 450 hours, and got back to it recently for a few days. Good lord, what a mess they made with the character building experience in this game. Only play if you have friends to play with. Despite how much I love this game, I can't in good conscience recommend it to anyone without a laundry list of caveats and warnings, especially regarding IMC's monetization practices. The only people who might want to dive in without question are die-hard Ragnarok Online fans, because this is basically its spiritual successor, and you'll probably be able to put up with the cons and still have fun. Look, I'm giving a thumbs up because the game is fun. But be warned, if you do play it, company behind it is a bloodthirsty mercenary. Lots of paywalls or time walls. Bro, it's Halo. And it's free. Oh, sorry, that last review was for the Halo Infinite multiplayer, which is free on Steam right now. Eventually, I make it to the 3rd floor of the mine, collect some magical power from some crystals, rescue some kids, and take on the actual boss, which is almost good. She's this demon with chains and skulls floating around, and she looks great, but it doesn't tie into the mine theme. Again, I don't know who she is or why she's here. And her spinny laser attack is meant to need me to jump over it to avoid it, but I've been given so many level up tokens by now, I can just tank it and stab her to death. We were so close to being good here. So close, and again the balance just lets us down. Let the night dude know the mines are clear and he sends me to some summoner lady in a tent who explains she's had a vision of the goddess and we might just be the saviour of the world. The tent itself is a small but beautifully intricate map, with so much character and charm. It's a shame the gameplay and the general design and the pacing isn't anywhere near as good as the art direction in this game. If it was, we'd have an extremely successful, extremely popular game. So, Tree of Saviour. It's a game with fantastic art, dripping with charm and character and style, with a lot of complex systems which all do work, but it's put together in a really overwhelming, convoluted way with way too much being thrown at you and way too little explanation being given. If they redesigned the pacing to slowly introduce the character to various systems and have them actually be played through instead of text dumped, I feel you'd keep more people. And if the first town didn't bombard you with daily login gifts and fill your inventory up with esoterica we don't yet understand, we'd be in a much more understandable place as a player. We'd be more comfortable to keep playing. I feel this is a game that started well, many years ago, then slowly got more complex over time, and now when a new player starts, they're exposed to all of the complexity instantly. And we don't have the years of understanding the long-term players do, which is why this game is not going to gain any new players. It's not a good new player experience because, quite honestly, it's not expecting new players. Adding more and more features doesn't necessarily make something more fun. Sometimes it can be fun to go back to a simpler time with easy to understand mechanics, kind of like the first Halo, which is now free multiplayer on Steam. Not sponsored, this is just genuinely really good. So to end the review, I will award Tree of Saviour, huge text dump review score, read it all if you want to know the actual score, out of 10. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and our second channel Josh Drive Plays, where I review old games voted on by you. And as always, have a great day.